Hello, welcome pen friends. Welcome to the third ink in this series, Chris's Choice series. I'm profiling 8 inks that I was inspired to sample during and after the 30 inks 30 days. So today it's going to be Platinum Lavender Black. And this is a beautiful ink, and it's got some interesting qualities. I can't wait to dive in here. But first, let's go ahead and just real quickly, the last ink was this one here, Mont Blanc Lavender Purple, and that did behave just like regular normal fountain pen ink, and it did disappear off of the bath test. So I wanted to give you that follow-up. And now we're ready to go ahead and put this one in for today and see what we get. I have no idea what we're going to get with this. This, you know, in terms of if we'll be able to read anything, I have no idea. So there it goes. Okay, so let's jump right in here. This is the Rhodia Gold book, and I'm going to turn this page and then we'll find where there we go. Right here is where I started. Sometimes I tilt it a little because I got good natural light to the left of me, and it just helps give you a really nicer, not quite so dark look at it. I know it's a little weird, though, to do that. Okay, so this was inspired during the 30 Inks 30 Days Challenge by @Maya Photo Mojo. So I can't remember what I saw precisely, but it inspired me to order a sample of this beautiful ink. So here it is on the Tomoe River paper. It kind of flattened out on there, and I was a little surprised, but it does some interesting things elsewhere, so we'll see that in a minute. I do also enjoy the shading. Already I could see that on here. This is generally the first place I end up with it, unless I'm writing a bunch of letters. So it's available at Anderson Pens for $25 for the 60 ml bottle, or what I got, which was the 3 ml sample for $1.50. So, and there's lots of other places. I saw it at Goulet too, but since I purchased it at Anderson, I'll link it there for this one. My first impressions are that it's beautiful. Also, the ink goes on kind of a bright burgundy, and then it dries a lot darker. So it's very interesting to watch that happen, kind of, you know. It's a unique shade, and we'll see that when we start trying to find something that looks similar to it. You know, at first glance, it even looks quite a bit like yesterday's, but then when you really get to looking at them, you find out that a Mont Blanc Lavender Purple has a lot more purple, and Lavender Black feels more like in the burgundy category, or it fools you depending on the light. So we got a lot to talk about here. So here we go. Let's go right into the Cafe Note with Tomoe River paper from Monami Paper Company. This is where I write my daily notes every day, whether I'm doing a video or not. On my intermittent fasting and low carb quest here, and I love how it looks in here. It did dry a lot darker than it went on, and as the Serendipity, which is a hybrid dip fountain pen, as it fades, you know, you do see kind of a difference, or maybe, I'm not sure if you do. With this lighting, it's kind of a combination today. But I like how it went on this paper, and it was smooth on this paper. Now, this ink, to me, seemed dry on some papers, but that's not scientific. That's just how it felt to me, and when we get to those papers, I'll explain it. This is the envelope, the AMPAD security envelope, and it didn't feather quite as much as some of the others have, you know, but it's still, you know, that's yeah, it does feathers because this isn't made for fountain pen ink. It's just our test to see how it does in the water, basically. And here it is on Tomoe River paper that is 52 gram, and I thought it looked really nice. It dries, you know, it dries so much darker. Excuse me, it really messes with your head in a way because it dries so much darker than it went on that you're like, oh, that's how it looked. Keeps on drying. Here it is on Leuchtturm, and by the way, on these two types of paper, Tomoe River paper and Leuchtturm, I felt like it was flowing right along, and I didn't feel like it was dry at all. So there it is on this Leuchtturm 1917 dot grid paper. And then when I got over to the Clairefontaine, I felt like it was it felt like more dry ink on that. And I thought, oh, this is not like yesterday's at all. And maybe that's why I noticed it, maybe. I don't know. Because we'd been writing with some real flowy type inks. And it just was a difference I noticed, but it might not be everybody. Your mileage might vary depending on your pen and your paper and everything. Here's the Rhodia dot pad. Same thing on that. It felt dry on it. There were 3 papers where I felt that it was dry. On Rhodia, on Clairefontaine, and on CVS Caliber paper. And not only that, but it did lighten up even more on CVS Caliber paper, which kind of leads me to understanding some comments from viewers where that was the case for them. And not every ink I've used have I really found that to be a factor. Where, but on this one, yes, I notice, and I think you probably can tell too, but it may be a little difficult to see. Okay, then back over on the cheaper paper, it was nice and wet and flowy, you know, smooth on this paper. Of course, that's a wicked smooth nib. So if anything happens, if I ever think it's not moving, I know it's not the nib in this case. I mean, there are pens I have where I could blame the nib right away, but not this one. Not the Serendipity. Let me just, for anybody who's just, you know, tuning in here, I am using this interesting pen here. It's Serendipity by James Phineas and Robert Oster. It's a collaboration, and it's a dip pen with a regular fountain pen nib and feed, a number 6 nib. And when you dip it, depending on how long you keep it in the ink, just, you know, if you keep it in there a second or two, you could get 3 pages of A5 size paper writing. And it's just an incredibly smooth Yowo nib that is, I believe they check them and everything and work on them before they send them out. So anyway, this, I know that the nib is my standard to use, and I know how it behaves, so that's why I can be confident on that. Okay, so when I got around to trying to compare it to other inks, and oh, by the way, we're going to be able to read that, it looks like, but not with that sort of purpley color anymore, just with the dark pigment that's underneath. I ended up putting it on one by itself because it needs to be compared on a few different panels, and there's just no reason to reinvent the wheel here. What happened was, in my eye and in my collection, here's the Platinum Lavender Black in my right hand, so that'll be your base there. I felt like it compared the best to KWZ Standard Brown Pink. Hope this isn't too crooked. But it's still not quite there, as you can see. I see more purple in the KWZ ink. And then it starts leaning heavily over toward the burgundy side in my eye, but that could just be me. But they're both beautiful inks, that's for sure. And as I was comparing, of course, I just wasn't getting any comparison whatsoever with anything purple, with this Hippo brown purple, no. With the Bootlegger Sacrament, no. Iron Gall Gummy Berry to the left there, no. And then, you know, then we start, you know, no, not really, even with the, did I have, oh yeah, okay, Scarlet Letter, and then Sacrament, that's Papier Plume. But then, over here, you know, as I was writing, it reminded me constantly of Noodler's Black Swan and Australian Roses, but that's not how it ends up. It may go on bright like that, but it dries really dark and pretty. So then the other one that it reminded me a lot of is Kobe number 6 Bordeaux up there in the left-hand corner. So here we are with Ink of the Day right here. And I'm sorry if this is a little bit weird, but I wanted to be able to compare it to so many that I actually couldn't get it on a panel of 9 because I wanted to make sure that we were able to see this. But there's no, this is much more burgundy, the Kobe number 6. And then that's when you start seeing that darker, you know, black or purple or something. And then it does even more interesting things when you add the water and when you add the ink to water, which we'll save the best for last, I guess. So another ink that I thought it would be a lot like was Diatramentus Blackberry, but no, not once it dries anyway, and that's a long way from each other, but it is still a nice comparison to make, I think. So it's not completely related or at home with either burgundy or purple. It's somewhere in the middle, I would say. Because when I got my purple panel, it was like, no, nothing was anywhere near as close as, say, this one here. The KWZ Standard is really close. But this was a lot of fun to do. And I kind of like that. I think each one needs to be like on a popsicle stick so I can just move it around and compare it to everything else. But it was a lot of fun. And then it got even more fun when I did the kind of little technique on the paper here. This is 140 pound watercolor paper. And let me see, I'm going to move this around so I can just get my hands out of the way. That's the last thing that you need, is a bunch of shadows from my arm and stuff. So there it is, and it did some really interesting things. I started over here, and I didn't have enough water, so it just kind of grew me 3 layers of trees and with 3 little drops and stuff. So that was interesting, and I like to see what happened, but it stayed real saturated. It didn't divide as much as it did up here. And then I moved over here, and I don't know what happened. That kind of looks like an upside down chicken leg or something. Anyway, it's still fun to see how much pink came out, and just interesting to see what happens. And then I started over here. This was the 3rd little trial. And then it got all this really neat lavender. I could see where the lavender name came from once I saw that. And then over here, I guess I decided I didn't use enough water, so I went crazy with the water and probably heavier on the ink too, and just basically made a mess. But it's still neat. It's very dramatic how it spreads out. And it made some really interesting edges right there. Let's see if we can get that to focus there. See, that was very interesting. More black came out there. And there was a lot more water involved with that particular test, I guess. Anyway, I'm still real fascinated with this. I think that it's just really fun to do. So there it is. Now, as I'm filming this is Saturday the 13th of October. And I think what we're going to have for tomorrow is the review on the little fountain pen. The Monami Olika. Because I'm really excited about that. So I've got lots of notes and lots of interesting stuff on that. And so look for that next. And then after that, let's go ahead and get this closed up here. And we'll take one more peek at this. And then we'll look at tomorrow, the next day's ink, which will probably be Monday. Yeah, so we're still going to be able to read this. It's not at all going to be like yesterday. You can tell. It's not going to be like the Mont Blanc Lavender Purple, because that disappeared right away. So very, very interesting. Okay, so the next one, we are really shifting gears, and I didn't do this on purpose. This is just, I just finally decided that how they are in the rings is what it's going to be. So the next one is going to be Pelikan Edelstein Topaz. And that is cool. I just love turquoise. I love bright blues like that. And I've got quite a few that we could compare it with. So I do anticipate that for Monday if there's no other technical or family difficulties at all. So thank you very much for being here for this one. Let me know what you think of this ink. It is very interesting, I think. It's just kind of neat to see it go on bright and then, you know, dry dark. It may be just a little flatter than some that I just go crazy over, but it's beautiful. And for letter writing, I could tell it'll just show very, very nicely on that Tomoe River paper and stuff. So let me know what you think. That's the fun of this, is the discussions and then further ink referrals. I've added even more now to my little long-term ink sample wish list, which is almost silly, as many as I have here in the house. But that's just for later. So thank you very much. I'm rambling now, so I'm going to say goodbye. Bye for now.